If you want to be successful, you've probably thought about starting a side hustle. So you start doing research and come up with a bunch of ideas on how to break out of the rat race. But when it's time to take action, you don't even know where to start. Over the last year, search interest in side hustles has literally doubled. The combination of layoffs, inflation, high gas prices, and rising interest rates made people want to break free and start their own business. So that means if you're here right now, you're ready to take action and start your own side hustle. But it also might mean that you're not sure on how to fully begin. Well, look, that is completely okay because I was in your shoes about 5 years ago, and before I made my millions of dollars online, I actually had started out with trying out multiple different side hustles first while I was still attending community college and working my part-time job. So this here is going to be one of the most important videos to watch because before you can even start the process of having your own viable side hustle, you need to know the cardinal rules of the do's and the don'ts. This is because according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, nearly 1 in 5 US businesses fail within the first year, and in about 10 years, more than 70% of small businesses will fail. But that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be you. And as crazy as it sounds, my whole philosophy is just the fact that if I could do it, someone who did not do that well in school, who I don't think I'm like some prodigal genius out here, if silly boy B Jung out here can do it, I'm telling you, you guys are capable of doing it too. So before we begin, let's start with some of the very basic info on what is a side hustle. So the simple way to describe what a side hustle is, it's essentially just a business that you can create on top of your standard 9 to 5 income. 44 million people in the US right now have a side hustle of some sort, which is 6 times the number of people that work more than one traditional job. That fact there is really important to note just because a lot of people think side hustles are a bit more unusual or it's a little off the cuff. But when you realize all the benefits and advantages of having a side hustle versus picking up another part-time job such as bartending somewhere, you'll realize it's these things that are more relatively easy to launch and maintain. They allow you to take advantage of your interest and skills to make money. And on top of that, side hustles can indeed prove to be more stable in uncertain times, such as even like this recession we're going through. Layoffs are more prominent now than ever. If you guys are keeping up with the tech company news, I mean, there are people who are waking up trying to sign into their email inbox and they don't even get a heads up. They just find out that they're locked away from their company and they have to figure out what they're going to do next. Now, this is precisely what I did. I could have found a second job, and it's during the time when I was in community college, I decided, hey, I'm like sick of not having money and seeing my parents struggle all the time. I had even documented my first video here on YouTube. In that video, I actually went through the process of talking about my own experience in starting a few side hustles and eventually taking the risk to start my own business. Now, ladies and gents, by the way, if you do try to search for that video, you're not going to find it because I unlisted it because I cringed so bad at my old self, how I used to talk. And also for some reason, I don't know why, but I also had a haircut back then that made me look like a pit bull. So no need for that on the internet. But back when I had posted that video, look, I'll say I had no potential of what those few side hustles could eventually turn into. But needless to say, I have been so incredibly blessed to have achieved a lot of those goals that I set for myself and even more than that. Now, one of the reasons that I wanted to start a side hustle is just because I was a student at the time. I was also helping my dad with hardwood floor projects. So if he ever needed a helper, if there was just too much work for him, there were times where I would skip class in order to go help him out. And on top of that, I was also working one-to-one with families with kids who had those disabilities, which is specifically autism. And that job just entailed me working with them, like going on walks with them, teaching them how to speak if they couldn't, making sure that they were eating, things like that. Now, the great thing about those jobs and even, the education that I was getting from my college was just the fact that I could still balance and add an additional project like a side hustle. A side hustle didn't require me to go full into it, and there are even a lot of side hustles that still exist today that don't require a huge upfront investment. So some of the first things that I tried was even just like trying to go on Robinhood and invest and see if I can make like $10 to $20 a day. After that, I learned about drop shipping about 5 years ago, and the first year that I got into it, I made over $100,000 in revenue, and that was the first time I ever saw huge money. It was actually one of my birthdays in 2018 to 2019 where I start to see days where I was making $1,000 to $2,000 in revenue, which was crazy. I never ever had seen money like that coming into my account. So it was during that first year where that was a side hustle that eventually turned into a business that I could take full time. But I will say there were a lot of things that I learned, and it wasn't all just successes back to back to back. There were a lot of failures in between that. But from learning from my initial side hustle of drop shipping, I was able to take those skills in starting a marketing agency, and then moving that over into starting Amazon FBA, then moving that over into starting my own private label brand, and then even moving that over into making videos on YouTube. Through that journey, which lasted about 2 to 3 years, I was able to learn so many different skill sets and monetize in many different horizontal avenues. A lot of people these days focus on scaling vertically. This means if you learn a skill, say you're an electrician or you're a home inspector, you want to scale vertically where you're able to get more clients on that same business. But I've always had the mentality since the beginning to scale horizontally, where I learn different skills and try to diversify the different types of income I would get. There were just so many different ways that I went, and that is all because I focused at the beginning in my side hustle to scale horizontally and to continue learning skills despite all the failures that I had. Now, I tell you guys I made $100,000 in revenue, only a fraction, like 20% at most of that was profit. I wish you guys saw the look on my accountant's face. I was using my mom and dad's, Korean traditional accountant, and he was like, oh my goodness, $100,000 revenue, 20 years old. And I was like, keep going, look at the cost, scroll down. And then he's like, oh, his reaction was even funnier. Like, he was even more surprised when he saw that literally I had like $80,000 in ads and cost of good expenses. Funny times. So let me tell you guys this. I had a lot of failures. Even the Amazon FBA business that I had with my partner, that at that time, like, we could not sell our inventory because we kept getting undercut by other manufacturers from China. Eventually we had to actually burn and destroy all of our inventory because it costs money to even hold it on Amazon. And if it doesn't sell, you're just losing money too. Okay, so now that you know on why I started a side hustle, why should you? In a recent video, I explained that breaking down your income also allows you to reach your goals much easier and faster. So instead of trying to make $1 million per year, which seems impossible for most people, try to bring that goal down and to set something as in trying to make $100,000 per year. In order to make $100,000 per year, you just need to make $274 a day. Breaking that down, it could be $100 from your main job. It could be $100 from a bartending second job, and then even $74 from a side hustle. Basically, your side hustle allows you to grow your income on top of your day job, and the right strategy and idea can allow you to easily double the income that you're currently making. So that right there covers one of the major benefits in starting a side hustle. Let's go over some of the other advantages, and towards the end, let's go over some of the cons. So another benefit is the fact that when starting a side hustle, you have to realize you are fully in control. Now, this is a good thing and also a bad thing because you have the flexibility and the freedom to work whenever you want, but it's entirely up to you for you to make sure that you are actively working. Say after a long day of work, you're really not in the mood to work on your side hustle, no one's gonna force you to clock in and out. You're not gonna get income if you do not decide to put in that extra work. On top of that, if you wanna start a business that doesn't require capital up front, this here is one of the best ways to go. This is because side hustles range from, doing more physical labor. You could take a side hustle of even just delivering food and trying to get tips and finding a way where you can maximize maybe different areas of delivering food to make more money for the bang for the buck. Or, you could do things such as like buying just one power washer and realizing that's your only expense and going around neighbor's house, cleaning out their garbage cans or cleaning out their sidewalk, parts of their home that need help. You could also go the other way where you have to buy inventory, start a clothing brand, but even with a lot of that stuff, you can bootstrap with your own savings account, or you can find that there are many alternative services where you do not need to invest capital up front, such as print on demand, where if you get the order, then they print it and then they ship it to the customer. This reduces the amount of risk that you have, and it's just one of the benefits of starting a side hustle for this year. So maybe you've always wanted to be better at being a salesman, or maybe you love networking, or maybe you don't like doing any of that. You're more of an introvert. You want to stay at home and work on your laptop. Well, regardless of whichever direction you want to go, these side hustles allow you to emphasize the type of skill that you have. By choosing precisely what you want and which direction you want to go, you can find that you can keep doubling down on different areas of your life where you've wanted to invest. This also goes into the fact that if you do get really good at from doing a side hustle, you can apply this to, another 9-to-5 income to either ask for a raise or find a new position. So whether you're a person who hates their 9-to-5 and you want to get into the side hustle world, and then you realize, okay, side hustle and like being a business owner, this is not actually what I want, you want to go back. The ability to pick something up like this and not fully committing allows you the flexibility to return back to something, and allows you to continue having stability because you can manage different projects, or to continue keeping your full-time job while still learning the ins and outs and picking up that side hustle. Now, the last benefit that I have to say with a side hustle is just the fact that you do find more purpose, because you can find a side hustle that allows you to get even deeper within the passions that you have. Look, I don't care what anyone says, everyone has a passion, and that could be for video games, that could be, looking at the sky. Everyone has some type of passion, some type of hobby, and it might even just be like going on long walks. There are ways that you can monetize every single aspect of this, and for a lot of people, they wish they had more time to spend on that thing. Side hustles will provide you an opportunity to continue building on it. So more specifically, maybe you like making videos, or maybe you love painting, or maybe you love the aspect of organization and design. If you're someone who loves cleaning their house, these are all different side hustles and businesses where you can decide to start scaling. You clean for yourself, or maybe you clean for your friends, or you then start cleaning for other people because of word of mouth, and then you realize, okay, now I have a full-fledged cleaning business. You can find that it is very easy to monetize your passion and your hobby. Now, all those things sound great about side hustles, but I always got to give you guys the full truth. I hate just, telling all the good things about it, but there are definitely some downsides too. A lot of the most commonly known ones are either going to be oversaturated, or it's going to be a bit harder to get into the market where you find yourself being able to make money at the time that you want. There are also going to be side hustles that do require a higher upfront capital investment in order for you to get started. Sometimes you're going to need a vehicle if you want, a mobile detailing car washing service. Sometimes it'll cost you nothing at all, but if the barrier to entry is low enough that you can easily get started within one day, just imagine how many other people are going to be within that line of business. You have to realize that with these things, even though your income is going to be scalable, this is not guaranteed for you to continue making money for a long period of time, and you're not guaranteed when you will start seeing actual profit coming into your pocket. For me, as an example, I had to lose a lot of money in the beginning in order for me to start seeing some dollars later. Luckily enough, that was only a span of maybe 1 to 2 years before I started seeing real profit coming in, but there are some people who had to wait 10 to 20 years before they ended up becoming multimillionaires. Do you have liabilities at risk? How long could you go if the side hustle does not make you money? Now, my personal philosophy though is the best things in life are the ones that always aren't guaranteed. This means that everything comes with a risk, whether it's trying to find the most dream job you have by quitting the current one that is making you unhappy. There's going to be a level of risk if you end up quitting it first. There's going to be a level of risk if you decide to invest into a venture you're not sure of. The best decisions I made are oftentimes the one that carried a bit of risk, because I saw that the more risk there was, by not going the safe direction, by not choosing the rat race, I was able to find much more reward on the chance that I got it right. The same thing applies to all of you. If you continue to choose the safe route and you say, okay, I don't even want to do any of this is all too scary, you may never ever be able to break out of the current struggles that you're in. So the additional control that you also get from, going into the world of side hustles means that there's not going to be someone who advises you. Unlike in a 9-to-5, you can count on a director or CEO to call upon, or your, leading boss. With side hustles, the responsibility of everything falls on you. So if anything goes wrong, if you don't know how to fix it, you need to find a way to fix it. Now, there will always be the opportunity of reaching out to other business owners, other mentors, even watching videos like this where maybe some people can help you get feedback, or even if you have additional friends or family, you can always get feedback. When starting out within the world of side hustles, you'll realize that analysis paralysis, pretty much when you overthink a situation to the point where you end up not being able to do anything, happens a lot more commonly than you would expect. This is because most beginners will experience at some point in their side hustle journey that it's a lot easier to just continue weighing out the thoughts and seeing what works and what doesn't before ever starting any type of action. Another downside to starting a side hustle is just the fact that you're gonna have less time and you're gonna be seeing your friends a lot less. And this is something that I experienced a lot in the beginning. You're gonna have to say no to things way more often than all the times that you could say yes. And if you have a family, this is going to be a tough decision to make, because there are even moments where when I was in a relationship, or, a lot of my other friends are hitting me up like, Brian, let's go out. Let's do this. Let's hang out. You never talk to us anymore. I had to consciously say no, because I need to work on my business, because I knew the fruits of what that would pay out at the end would look like. Now, side hustles can take a long time to make money. So you will have to put in a lot of time doing the research, working on your product or service, and even a lot more. The beauty of this, though, on the other side, is the fact that the more time you put in, you may be able to live in even more freedom later on. So that's exactly what I did. Hustle in my early 20s and enjoy the mid 20s, going to 30s and 40s, and set my family up, my future children up for success. I feel like culture right now is completely the other way around. It's like, have all the fun you have in college, like drinking, partying, and then after that, while you're starting your new job, have even more fun. You can do that, but then you realize when you get to your 30s, 40s, and even 50s, you don't have anything saved up. You don't have a side hustle, a profitable venture, or even just a nest egg where if you maybe get laid off, you have nothing to fall back on. Now, the last downside of all this is, of course, failure. Just like I have, you're gonna need to learn to embrace failure. And where most people will tell you about all the success, like I said in the beginning, they will leave out all the failures they experienced along the way. I hate to say this, but it is incredibly rare that you'll start your first side hustle and instantly see a lot of money coming in, or this be the business that takes off. It could take you many months to see your first sale or even your first client, and it may lose you a lot more money in the beginning before you start seeing money flow in. This here is definitely the biggest challenge for a lot of newer entrepreneurs, as you'll find that you get crippled with the idea of failure, but there's no doubt that the first failure stings a lot, but as you start to fail more frequently, you will learn how valuable it really is. This is because on the other side of failure is wisdom. On the other side of wisdom is peace in knowledge and success. So know that anytime you do fail, you are building yourself up, almost like a little step to the success that is knocking on the door. Now, at this point, hopefully you guys aren't feeling too overwhelmed, but if you are, I will say there are a lot of good reasons to start a side hustle, but also a lot of challenges that you may not have considered before. So if you made it through that section of the video and you didn't click off, this means you're resilient, and it means that you're the person that can make it work through countless hours of failures and everything else that may come alongside the way. Ultimately, the thing that a lot of beginners also fail to consider is the fact that it is impossible to fail if you simply never give up. Even if you had 6 failed businesses, as long as you try again, eventually something will work. Every failure you also have is going to be a continuous way for you to continue growing your skills and learning what you're good at. On top of that, you find out what you're not good at and what you don't want to do. So if you're ready to take action, this next part of the video is going to give you all the details on how you can get started next, but also leveraging all the best tools that we have for this year. So ladies and gents, this here is the side hustles presentation. By the way, if you do want the full PDF version of this, you can go ahead, check out the link down below in the description. I can email it to you guys. But to kick it off, here is a visual on everything you need to know between the process of starting a successful side hustle. So to go over it real quick, what you want to start with is setting a goal. Then after that, we're going to move over into determining your skills and your interests. We're then going to go into the top 20 side hustles that exist within the market now. And then we're going to go over into a short list of creating 2 to 3 business ideas, then scaling that over into a successful pre-launch. And after that, we're going to have a regular launch. And from there, you have 3 choices you can make. You can either move on, you can scale, you can re-strategize. And if you do decide to re-strategize, we're going to be going over 10 final key tips of success. For the first one, setting your goal. Here's what you need to know. Before even starting your side hustle, you need to set realistic goals. So this is going to start with a monetary goal or an alternative goal. So this here will allow you to determine how much you need to sell, produce in order to reach your monetary goal. So say you have that goal of making $100,000. Before you even try to figure out the math on the side hustle, you need to determine how much you're going to be making from your full-time job. So from that, say you make $60,000 a year, the remaining of that is going to be $40,000 you need to make from your side hustle. And if we divide that by the amount of days per year, that's going to be about $110 per day you need to make from your side hustle if you're working every single day of that year. Now, there are also some alternate goals and different reasons aside from making additional money on why people may want to start a side hustle. Now, you need to make sure that you understand exactly what that is. Are you starting a side hustle because you want to leave your 9-to-5 job? Or do you want to build up a portfolio? Or do you want to expand to a new industry? Or do you just want to become more confident? Or do you even want to expand your network? These goals can be anything, but make sure you set them, write them down, and know exactly what the reasons are on why you want to achieve these things. After that, you want to really determine your skills and interest. And this here is a huge key on knowing what you can do within the world of starting a side hustle. Now, to get started with this, brainstorm and write down a list of skills that you have. Within those skills, you can also create another list of all the interests that you have. And where you see the fine line of skills and interests coming together, this is where you can decide a side hustle might be viable. So as an example, some skills that I know I have is I'm pretty decent at being able to sit at a computer, knock out tasks, learn different things. I love reading. I love being able to get creative or filming or just generating new types of ideas. But I also know that I have other interests such as credit cards or finance or even fishing or going to the gym. If I know I can create, say, a creative or some videos and I have a passion of going to the gym, in between that, maybe I can film videos for other bodybuilders or powerlifters and create them montages and grow my own portfolio. Or even on top of that, maybe I can do it for myself, grow my own personal brand and have people get mentored by me as a personal trainer. Or maybe I could even sell like a quick little PDF for $5 to $10 on how I was able to lose 30 pounds within a year. I really recommend you guys to be engaged. So like actually pause the video, write down your skills and interests and figure out what that is. If you do come to a point though, you realize, okay, my skills and interests are not that much. And Brian, I cannot figure this part out. Well, I'll give you a little bit of a cheat sheet right now on 20 side hustle ideas that are very viable, really good. And with most of these, I can share with you my own firsthand experience. So number one on this list, we have drop shipping. This is what I used to get started with my whole entire career within the entrepreneurial space. When I first started out with drop shipping, I learned so much within this business. And the best thing about it was that getting started was pretty easy just because there were so many resources online. And now more than ever, Shopify is going to give you free templates. If you go on YouTube, Squarespace, Twitter, I mean, all of this alpha that exists right now is completely for free, all at the availability of our fingertips just by using the internet. You have wholesaling, we have freelancing, affiliate marketing, print on demand, we have newsletters, online courses, being a YouTube creator, hosting your own Airbnb, getting into Turo car rentals, you have online consulting services, you have a creative service, you have marketing agencies, you have flipping products, mobile notary, photography, Amazon FBA, tutoring, ride sharing, and even rev captioning. Almost all of these involve using the internet, whether you're using Airbnb's platform and you have like a beat up old house and you want to at least give out your room because you have a spare bedroom in your home, or, say you want to get into Turo car rentals, you have a vehicle that, you don't use half the time and you want to list it on. That's a viable side hustle. All you have to do is make sure that it is available for people to rent out on the internet. You're comfortable with them doing that. And I've seen firsthand experience from other friends who have been able to make some viable income from this, especially if you have like a spare car that you don't really use. Every single one of these side hustle ideas are something that you guys can get started with today. If you don't even know how to get started, all the information exists. So that's the biggest thing. From those 20 ideas list, I recommend you to first pick 2 to 3 best ideas and figure out which one of them you can start with. Like we mentioned within that Venn diagram, make sure you take into account your skills and interests and see what fits in best. Now, if there are a couple ideas that you're uncertain about, keep them in mind for the next upcoming steps, because this is where it gets really interesting. So you have an idea. What you do next is go into pre-launch. Within a pre-launch, you're going to be determining a few things. This is going to be the cost to launch it, the time that it takes to invest, what skills are required to have a successful launch, and what your plan is. So if we take to an example, if you want to start drop shipping, you need to take into consideration the cost of owning a Shopify store or the cost of setting up a domain. It's really not that much. I also have links for that if you guys want to check them out down below in the description, where it's even more discount links. You can actually get started for less than $100 in setting up a store and having it run. But on top of that, what I think is the most important is making sure that you know how much time is going to get invested, because if it takes you 2 years to build out a website, obviously that's not going to be a viable side hustle. If you find that you're not really tech savvy and it takes you 3 years to find a product and to, fully know the ins and outs of that market and whether or not this is something that you can sell, it's not going to be worth it. If it doesn't take you that much time at all in order to set up a website, get a blog going, and start, adding some affiliate commission links on there, that's going to be more viable. On top of that, please make sure that you do have the proper skills. So if you have any background in IT, or maybe you went to school for, a certain art degree, or, maybe you're just more of a handyman, make sure you take into consideration what those skills are and what are going to be required to have a successful launch that doesn't take up too much time, that won't cost you too much money either. When figuring out a plan, this goes into just having a general, broad, open business plan, because a lot of people want to go into business. They think they have this huge goal of what they want to accomplish, but they can't even figure out what that product's going to be, how it's going to look like during launch, who their target audience is going to be, who the market is going to be, how they intend to get their first customer, and how much money they would need, like a runway amount of money, just in case you lose income from your full-time job and you need to keep pouring in investment money into your venture. You want to make sure that you have all of these questions answered before you get started. So say you figure it out, you have the idea, you know how you're going to reach and market to people, you have a backup plan as well, just in case the first plan, which oftentimes it happens, it doesn't go the way that you think it would. This is your launch time. Now, this year is going to vary for each business, but the premise will still remain the same. Your first and only priority is to get a customer or a client. And that first one is going to be the hardest one to get, but it's going to be the most important, because that's where you decide, okay, my method in picking up this client for my marketing agency, it worked because of word of mouth, or they saw me through social media and they told their father or their cousin about it. And that's how I was able to get this client. You figure out how it works. By figuring out and reverse engineering how you got that first client, you can then rinse and repeat that cycle. So back when I had a marketing agency, my first client, I actually picked him up for free. He said, Brian, can you help me with this? I am opening up a restaurant. I need to fill it out. I need to sell out this place. Went on social media, filmed the entire story of the restaurant, ran some paid ads on Facebook for it. We sold it out. There were so many people coming into the restaurant. We then posted a success video of our results. And on top of that, we had people who were coming into the restaurant telling other people about it, seeing how they saw like a Facebook ad commercial. And they went ahead and told other business owners, and they reached out to us saying, hey, could you run a Facebook ad for us? We want it just like you did with the restaurant. So not all the time do you need to sign on like a $5,000 a month client for the first time you're getting into the industry. If you have to work pro bono or for free for the first few customers, just know that it's not going to waste, because it was actually in me working for free where I was able to expand that business to unimaginable heights at that time. Now, once you get that first sale, repeat it, get another sale, and find out what elements succeeded in getting that first client. That's exactly what I have here on the launch. And from there, you can figure out what your target audience is actually going to be. Do I want to stick within restaurants? Do I want to maybe expand my marketing agency into real estate or other type of corporate clients? Or do I want to work for creatives like, anyone who's trying to get into YouTube and work with them? So once we get to that point, we're at our crossroads of 3 different directions where you pivot from scaling to moving on, or even learning to re-strategize. Now, if you decide that you've had a few successful clients and customers and you realize this is possible of doing well, scale the business. You can start by expanding where you sell your product or service. Maybe you can run some paid ads in addition to the word of mouth you're getting. Maybe other markets might become more valuable, but basically once you become more confident in your product and your customer base, who they are and what they expect that they're going to get from you, you can then continue to scale vertically or horizontally. So if you have a dropshipping store, you can continue to double down, run even more ads, scale those ads so you get a higher ROAS, which is what they call it, return on ad spend, or you can scale horizontally. So if I'm doing dropshipping and I'm getting a lot of clients from Facebook ads, what if I do TikTok ads? What if I do Pinterest ads? What if I retarget all of them with Google ads too? Decide to scale in different vertical avenues. Or if you are doing really good at dropshipping, you made a couple $1 million in revenue the first year, then think about how you can help other people doing that. If you're able to change your own life, I'm telling you, if you can package that and format that into your very own ebook or your course, first, post somewhere on social media. I'm doing well with this new business that I started. I've learned a lot of the ins and outs on my own. Let me see if I can help 2 to 5 people and say, listen, if you want to learn too, you can get mentored by me. Or if you want to learn too, join my group here. Or if you want to learn too, I'll create all these screen recordings of my success, put it into like a educational unit curriculum where they can download, watch, and also apply those principles. And you can find that you can make additional money from your existing business as well. Say a lot of the things though that I just mentioned didn't go your way. Say you started that clothing brand or you started your new, your new restaurant. It's not working out well. Sometimes you have to realize that there are points where you have to move on. If you've pivoted, launched, experimented, and you try to scale and nothing works, there are other side hustles that are viable. And to quote Kevin O'Leary, he stated that if you've been trying for 36 months and you're still not making money, it's probably time to move on. But make sure that you don't move on too early. A lot of people give up after like a few days or a few weeks of not seeing sales. I've had to be at it day in and day out for almost a year before I was able to see any type of results. So don't give up too early, but know that it is never a bad decision to call it quits. If you failed a business, there is nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of courage for you to realize this did not work out, but there's even more strength in overcoming the fact that you're pushing your ego aside. Okay, you're saying, okay, this may not have worked out, but it doesn't mean the next one isn't. So say you scale, you're doing well, you're making a lot of money, you don't even have to be watching this video anymore, or you don't do well, you decide to wrap it up. You always want to do this next thing, and this is re-strategizing. So basically the pivots that we're talking about, they're always going to be in a constant loop. It's going to be failures, successes, doing different things. And this is where re-strategizing comes in. If you want to continue to grow your business, you have to change it up. You have to adapt to the newer markets because there's going to be a newer customer. There's going to be a newer trend, a newer season. Things are never going to be just a constant flow if you don't adapt to the times. So re-strategize what your goals are consistently. If you're sticking with an e-commerce store, know what's coming up. Maybe there's a new innovative, item within the market, a new product that you can sell, a new marketplace that you should be on. As your business grows, maybe you can even get out of the side hustle world and hire your own team eventually. But even with them, you can begin to scale in a way, but continue to re-strategize on what the company focuses on. If you did have a really good business outline from the start though, and it's like a 5-year plan, you don't have to re-strategize in that. Keep sticking with your plan. But this is for people who didn't really have a thorough plan and the ones that are just continuing to make it by. By doing those additional things, you should be well set up, but I'm going to provide you with 10 keys to success that'll help you along your way. So first of all, do not slack in your full-time job. If you have a side hustle, don't think that, you can now go into work half the time, or, you start fighting with your boss more, or you actually tell your coworker how you feel because you think your side hustle is going to take off when you haven't even came up with a business name for it yet. If you lose your main income, this is not going to be a side hustle. You're just going to be unemployed. The second thing is to make sure you don't take on too much debt when you launch your side hustle. This is huge because a lot of people think, side hustles cost a lot of money. They need to put themselves in debt, or you need to have the most exquisite website or the most top of the line power washing tools before you can get your first client. That is not the truth in any case at all. You don't need to put in a lot of money. Don't put yourself in debt. The third thing, focus on the customer. A lot of people end up starting a side hustle so focused on all the things that they can achieve. But if you focus on providing value to a customer or to a client and have their needs come first in a way that you're serving them and knowing that money is just an external result of the value that you provide them, you will be set. You will be good to go. Focus on how much value that you can deliver to someone no matter what industry you're in. If you start a restaurant, think about how much good food you can provide to them. If they give you $20 for, a nice hamburger, make sure that, that hamburger tastes like it's a $40 to $50 hamburger, so that they're going to continue coming back. They're going to bring other people, and you're going to have a good, generating, healthy business. Number 4, constantly make it efficient. What can you do to build systems and to have processes to make your business flow even better? It's that term about working smarter versus working harder, because there's a lot of people who always try to work harder. Just is not the smartest thing to do. I'll say that. Within YouTube, I always thought it was better for me to do everything and to stick with my old systems of I used to use Evernote, and from that, type out everything out and then to write it on a piece of paper and then put it back in the computer. Or I could learn to build proper systems, find good talent who could help me, like a videographer or another team member or a personal assistant, and then find ways that we can build systems through software that exists like Notion or Slack. Number 5, make sure you keep a strict schedule. A lot of people think, side hustles aren't going to take that much commitment. It's easy money, but you still need to be committed in one way or another. So have a routine and understand that you have to stick with it and you have to be consistent in order for you to start generating money on a consistent basis too. Number 6, set both big and small goals. So it's okay to focus on the big goal, but make sure that you still break them down into smaller goals to know what is achievable and what isn't. Number 7, Focus on action over planning. So a lot of people, they want to plan everything out. They want to prepare, which is amazing. It is great. It is phenomenal. But a lot of people get stuck in that loop of preparing and they never start. They never take action. They never sign up for the subscription and they just end up in analysis paralysis, and you don't have a side hustle. Action is what makes sales. It's what generates revenue. So make sure that you implement action. Number 8, you got to make it enjoyable. Guys, a side hustle is not meant to make your life even more miserable. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, find a way to pivot, because life is too short for you to be doing something that you don't like doing. And it should never feel like a second job. A side hustle should feel more inspiring. It should invigorate you. It should give you energy because you love doing it so much. Number 9, stay focused. I highly recommend everyone to have, sessions of uninterrupted deep work days. This is where inspiration comes. And, I still get these from time to time, but I was getting it a lot during the first few years of my entrepreneurship journey, where I was literally in deep flow zone and flow state, where I'd be getting tingles, crawling down my neck because of such a good, amazing business idea that I had. And I'll think, okay, I'm on it. I'm on the right path. I don't know if that's correlated with how other successful entrepreneurs have felt, but all I know is I was able to stay focused and I continued at my tasks no matter how many distractions there were and how many thoughts I had telling me in my head, okay, I can't do this. This is not going to work out. This is going to fail. I stayed the course. Last but not least, when you start a business, you got to be responsible for your own taxes. The whole tax system, don't even get me started. It is just broken. It is corrupt. After all the money printing has happened, I don't even know what's happening with it. But basically, just know this. You got to plan for your taxes. So at least have a strategy. For every dollar you make, set aside about 40% of that dollar. If you make $100,000 in profit, about $40,000 of that has to go to the government. So you're, keeping less than that. If you're making $1 million per year, depending on where you live, you're only keeping about $500,000 of that amount back in your pocket. So always save for taxes, because you never want to scale so fast where you forget that, okay, half of this money is not even going to be mine, and you don't want to be left with a huge tax bill with all these additional expenses. So ladies and gents, that is going to be my full video right there. If you guys do want to get this whole PDF presentation, you want to study it, you want to go through it, be sure to check out the link down below in the description. Now, for anyone who wants to get started with the side hustle, check out Taylor Brand's link down below in the description. With them, you can set up your full LLC. They'll make sure that you're certified within your state. They'll give you your business logo, your business name, a whole bunch of stuff. On top of that, one of my favorite things about starting a side hustle is just the fact that you now have access to something called business credit cards. And it's with these where you get a whole bunch of benefits: free travel, free cash back, free purchase protection insurance, higher credit lines, no interest, lines of credits for 12 to 24 months, depending on what cards you have, that don't report onto your personal credit profile. So if you guys even want to get access to all the business capital that you need in order to fund your venture for the next 12 to 24 months, check out the link down below in the description to the ultimate best business credit card guide video that I made here on YouTube. If you watch that video from beginning to end, I will guarantee that you'll have all the knowledge in order to have access to free capital in order to start whatever side hustle or business that you may want to get into. So ladies and gents, that here is the ultimate side hustles guide video. If you found any value at all, be sure to like this video, comment down below what your favorite tip was, and on top of that, share this with a friend if you haven't done so already. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Have an amazing day, and I'll see y'all soon. Peace.